Hey guys, Mike Shonen here. I'm going to do a super quick review of 2018's Mowgli. So this is a Netflix original, and this is much closer to the original source material, which is a book by Kipling. So this is very directed by Andy Serkis, and you're going to see a lot of personality on this film. But please do not expect what you saw with Disney's Jungle Book, and do not expect what you're going to see or remember uh, with the old 1967 Disney's Jungle Book. A whole different story. So you're going to find the characters are much different, the voices are much different. One interesting thing that Andy Serkis really loves to do, and we saw this a lot when he played Smeagol, was motion capture. So actually, when I was watching this film, my wife and I were saying, wow, there's a lot of human facial characteristics and personality through these characters. So truly, they had these nodes all over their face and these different things. So Christian Bale, Andy Serkis, and you had oh my gosh, Benedict Cumberbatch, of course, he's Shere Khan. So when you see the movements of the face on the actual human actor, it actually was portrayed directly onto the animal's face. So this is pretty cool, but to be honest, it's kind of weird. It's kind of creepy and ended up being kind of cartoony. And, you know, this movie ultimately, guys, is not a kid's movie. So do not get your kids on the couch with a bunch of popcorn and say, hey, here we go, guys. There are a couple parts, and my wife and I actually turned away from the film because it was starting to get too creepy or too gruesome. So remember, the characters in this film play different roles. So instead of Baloo being this kind of law-breaking, you know, Uncle Baloo, he ended up being this very law-keeping trainer for the young wolves. He ended up teaching them how to run. This whole film has an underlying theme of law, just like the others, but it's much more apparent. The underlying feeling of law goes through all these different things. Who keeps this law, who doesn't? It's very, very interesting. And the kid that plays Mowgli actually, I think, does way better than the kid that played Mowgli in the Jungle Book. In this version, you actually do see Mowgli integrating in with the Indian society, and it really plays heavily on the Indian people and culture, which is actually really cool to see. Now, there is white man, and white man bad guy, and white man shot the tusk off of an elephant, and he kept it as a prize. And guys, if you haven't watched it yet, stop it now. Okay, good. Guys, straight up, Mowgli screams at his little brother, which is a small albino wolf, and he's really just kind of being really rude to him. And he tells him that he's not special, he's a freak. He came out wrong. And the next time he sees him, he is stuffed, he is killed and stuffed in the trophy room of this man who actually is there. They was hired to kill Shere Khan for killing the sacred cows. So we have some religious stuff mixed in. But guys, that moment when Mowgli turns and he has the lamp and he sees his brother, and then the guy comes in and he goes, you know, that was my first albino. That was, you know, a beautiful feat of mine. You just see Mowgli's face. He's just crying and crying all night. This is not a kid's movie. Guys, Shere Khan just drags his claw down Mowgli's arm and his wrists, and it is a very creepy moment. There's a lot of blood in this movie. Even when he's a kid, he's found covered in his own mother's blood. And so it is a very brutal, gruesome movie. There's lots of death, there's lots of blood, and there's some gore. A lot of it is hidden, so there's like a hanging boar and Mowgli's cutting meat off it, but he's cutting, but it's showing from the back side of it. So there are a lot of scenes like that where the gruesome is kind of hidden. So overall, it's a very interesting film. It's actually really cool. I actually really enjoyed it. So did my wife, but it's nothing like what you would expect. So please don't have your kids watch it. You gotta watch it for yourself. But lots of law, which is very interesting. I felt like the plot was kind of watery. You weren't really sure what was going on. You're expecting these things with Baloo, and Baloo is just kind of thrown in there with the wolf pack. He's just a rejected sloth bear that's hanging with the wolf pack. Oh, let me say this real quick. So here's one thing I did like about the film. At first, I did not like. So the wolves are completely different. They have these kind of large patches They're skinnier. Baloo had no hair on his face, and I started looking on Google in the middle of the film at Indian wolves. So the wolves in India look much different. So the wolves that you're seeing in the Jungle Book, the Disney versions, actually are like Siberian or like North American wolves. They're totally the wrong wolf. So it makes sense to have a jungle wolf. And in the bear, Baloo, he's this big blue looking, I don't know, polar bear almost looking in the cartoon. And then he's just this big kind of grizzly looking thing. But sloth bears are actually what live in that area. And they have no hair on their snout and some all the way up to their forehead. And so they're using the actual correct animals. There's a butt ugly looking hyena. Shere Khan, his nose is very flat, which I didn't really like, and the sides they don't have a lot of. So Indian tigers actually have a lot of hair on the sides by their cheeks, and Shere Khan did not in this film. So I didn't really like that. And he's just dragging his foot around, but it never says why he has like a broken ankle type thing, and he uses it kind of like a human hand sometimes. It's really weird. But there are some fun insights in Bagheera. He shows a scar on his neck saying that I was collared. I lived for the, I was on a collar. I lived in a cage and was forced to entertain a king. So that's very interesting to have a little more backstory. And they do give some backstory and some even unspoken backstory. Like, what's with Baloo? Why is he in the wolf pack? Why is he part of the wolf pack? And same with Bagheera. They're run by Akita, which is kind of cool, which he's a total jerk in this movie, just to let you guys know. And then he dies in the end, just like Jungle Book. But you're going to see a lot of very, very, very interesting things. Within the first couple minutes, you're going to say, whoa, there's a kid being carried in the mouth of a jaguar, and he's covered by blood from his mom. And you're like, okay, it all gets more gruesome than that. So, not a kid's movie. Lots of focus on this jungle law, which is kind of interesting. It's got some more Hindi religion mixed into it. It's got a lot of Hindi and Indian culture, which is actually kind of cool to be able to see that kind of stuff. And he really does have Mowgli does have this inner turmoil of who he wants to be. So overall, great film. It's not something I would watch over and over, to be honest. I might see it like again once just to show my friends how crazy different it is. But the Jungle Book by Disney, the newer one that came out just a couple years ago in 2016, it's actually something I've seen 2 or 3 times and actually something I'll see again. It's funny, it's imaginative. One more thing, Mowgli is not a musical. You do not have songs. You have a score, which in the background is playing to enhance the cinematic view, but guys, do not expect Bare Necessities or Want to Walk Like You or anything like that. It is not a musical. Now, again, this is closer to the book by Kipling, written ages ago, so I understand that Andy Serkis wanted to be really close to the original, and that's beautiful, that's great. But I feel like because we've been have this idea where we grew up with very specific Jungle Book ideas, when somebody makes a Jungle Book rendition, even though it's off of the original, it just does not feel like home. It does not feel like something. So if someone were to make a Jurassic Park movie that is direct in correlation and is perfect and true to the Lost World book, we probably wouldn't recognize it. We probably wouldn't like it. So something to think about. Anyways, guys, I hope you watch the movie. Hope you enjoy it. Post the comments below and follow me and tell me what you thought. Give me your honest opinion and tell me what you thought of the movie. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, but tell me why. See ya.